I wonder, from your point of view, having done a lot of research into the condition, whether you find Robin's situation and ours fairly typical, or whether there is a great deal of individual variation.
Everybody's situation is unique, obviously. It depends on so many variables, but the consistency of story is there. The difficulty in getting a diagnosis was a huge one. The issues about people not understanding that the person is still in today's world, that they don't lose that connection the way people typically with Alzheimer's do, is another big misapprehension of, or misconception of people. I think that the combination of the motor or Parkinsonian problems with the cognitive, and then with the neuropsychiatric issues of the hallucinations and the REM sleep disorder, are huge. But then when you add to that the autonomic problems of toileting, and I don't know if Robin suffers from having problems controlling his own temperature and things like that.
Oh yes, he's very cold. Most
All
of the
these
time
things.
he's very cold, and that's new. Actually, one thing I didn't mention was that he's had a few episodes of I think it is a form of unconsciousness where he can be sitting in a chair and just be completely unrousable. And it might be 5, even 10 minutes.
And that's another typical sign of the illness,
But
called a syncope.
he's had it maybe 3 times in over the last 5 years. So it's curious. You think, oh, this is ghastly, it's going to be like this, but it isn't, fortunately.
And that's where it's so variable. I mean, I suppose there are so many different signs and symptoms that you can pick and choose, one from here and one from there, and they do vary. And obviously they vary with the level of pathology and the progression of the illness and those sort of things. So I asked you about swallowing, because that seems to be one of the later problems, later in the disease.
Sure. Actually, fatigue has been quite a problem. He does get very tired, and I need not to stretch him too much. On the other hand, if he doesn't walk enough, if he doesn't get enough exercise, he's likely to become, even more
rigid,
frail and dilapidated. So we try and keep him moving.
Even though it's your story, it is very typical of the other stories that I've heard. And there is a presentation of this illness that is consistent, and you don't necessarily have to have the fluctuations, or you don't necessarily have to have the Parkinsonianism for it to be classified as dementia with Lewy bodies. But they all tend to be manifest in the disease in the end. And I think, as you said, had you known what was on the list, you would have been able to diagnose it a lot earlier. This is the message that we're trying to get out there.
If we'd known, we probably would have managed life a bit differently. We wouldn't have been hovering, waiting, waiting and waiting to be told. And I think that it would be very helpful to people to help plan their lives a bit if they've got more knowledge of what is likely to happen. I think that's why a lot of people are very insistent. They want to know, what is the progression of this condition? Will I get pneumonia? Will that be what carries me off? How long do I have? And there is no such. There's no answer to the question.
It's like how long's a piece of string, always.
Yes,
I mean, with any progressive illness, one never knows. But there's a high probability that an aspiration pneumonia will be part of the latter, late stage disease picture. I think you can probably already see it. Falls are another big issue.
Oh yes, yeah.
And quite often it's the fall that creates, an injury that results in somebody being in bed for a long time. Obviously, they're in bed for a long time, their condition deteriorates, and it becomes a little bit of a snowball.
Sure.